Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Now today I wanted to go over some top tips for the paper 1 English literature, which will be sat on Wednesday. So in terms of paper 1, first of all we need to know what is being assessed. So if I just flick through very quickly, for section A, you'll have a Shakespeare text, so that could be Macbeth, Romeo and Juliet, The Tempest, etc. And let's say, for example, you have been studying in your school Macbeth. So you need to make sure that you prepare your notes, you've studied the key themes, etc. So for section A, the question is worth 34 marks, whereby 4 of these marks account for accurate use of spelling, punctuation, and grammar. And you'll be given an extract from your chosen Shakespearean play, which you must talk about within your answer, as well as including points from another section of the play that relates to the question. So that's something for you to remember and prepare for. So if I just flick over very quickly, so to question 1, so the first or section A, as you can see, it'll be, for example, 30 marks. So if I just highlight that, and you'll get 4 marks, which is separate for assessment objective 4. So you'll have the bullet points. So the first one is how Shakespeare presents Macbeth in this extract. So you need to obviously find quotations here for AO1 and AO2 and talk about that. And secondly, how far Shakespeare presents Macbeth as a violent character in the play as a whole. So obviously that's referring to the rest of the play. So that's something that you have to do for this question. Otherwise you cannot score the top marks. So that is for section A. Now for section B, for paper 1, if I just go back to the home page here, you will have a 19th century novel. So that could be The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. It could be Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, etc. So let's say, for example, in your school, you have been studying A Christmas Carol. So that is question 8 on page 12. So if we go to page 12, we should find the question. So there we go. Okay, so this is the question. For example, you'd have Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. Starting with this extract, explore how Dickens uses the ghost to help Scrooge change his attitudes and behavior. Write about how Dickens uses Marley's ghost in this extract and how Dickens uses the ghost to help Scrooge change his attitudes and behavior in the novel as a whole. So this question is also, sorry if I go back here, this question is worth 30 marks. So you need to make sure you focus on both areas of the essay. As you can see, the bullet points are here to guide you. So use it for guidance. Now, what is interesting for section B is that it is worth 30 marks and you are not being assessed for AO4 in this section of the exam. So you will be required to, of course, answer the question based on the response given. And remember, you have to be cautious with your time. So just to go over the assessment objectives, you need to be familiar with those. We have done a previous video on that. So AO1 in simple terms is referring to relevant quotes and having a strong point. So make sure you are using quotes which are relevant. So often we see students pick up irrelevant quotes and they struggle to talk about it and analyze it in further detail. So I always recommend my own students as well, choose quotations which have a lot to talk about, and that's how you'll maximize your marks. And AO2 equally as important. So if I just write on the side, so AO1, just to remind you all, AO1 is your evidence, your quotations, is referring to you having precise points as well. AO2, okay, is your language, structure, and form. So analyzing it. So it's a measure of how well you analyze language, form, and structure to create meanings and effects, using relevant subject terminology where appropriate. And for top grades, what are examiners looking for? Examiners are looking for students to avoid identifying nouns or verbs used by the writer in an attempt to demonstrate an appreciation of the work, but rather the top students are expected to demonstrate a fluent and confident discussion of the writer's methods. Absolutely crucial. Remember this for your exam tomorrow. And also AO3. This will measure how students understand the relationships between the texts and the context in which they were written. This includes relevant historical, social, and biographical information. And now that the keyword here is relevant, make sure it is relevant to the question. So that's something for you to remember. And of course, I mentioned AO4, but like I said, this is only being assessed in section A of paper 1. And just to remind you, I forgot to mention, AO3 is your context in simple terms. AO4 is being assessed in section A. So AO4, in simple terms, is the measure of how accurately you are able to spell and use punctuation. To reach the top marks in this assessment objective, students are expected to use a range of vocabulary. So I'm going to just write this here. Vocabulary is important. It's important in language and literature. So you need to make sure you are using advanced vocabulary and sentence structures. So these are critical things you need to include when writing your essay. So these are, to be honest, some top tips and things for you to consider. And if you are aiming for the high grades, which everyone should be, what should you be trying to do or attempting to do? You should try to find alternative interpretations. So for the top grades, examiners are looking for students to be able to write their responses in a sophisticated manner, showing the examiner that they have understood the text thoroughly and that they are able to write about multiple alternative interpretations in regards to expressing their thoughts about the writer's craft. Now, alternative interpretations, what do they show to the examiner? They show the examiner that you are a top student who has really engaged with the text at hand, as it shows that you have a sophisticated and broad understanding of the writer's purpose. So you may ask, but how do I show this? So you may use some sentence starters. So for example, alternatively ... So maybe I can write these and you all can copy these down and use them in your essay. So alternatively ... The second one, you could even say, you can pause the video and go back if you feel like I'm going too fast. But another way you could say this is, in one way, this could show ... In another way, this could also show ... So where the dots are obviously is for you to fill this in. Also, explicitly, the writer is trying to show us that something. However, implicitly, the writer could be showing us that ... So explicitly is the obvious and the implicit is the not so obvious. So these are some things for you to consider. Now, what you should be thinking about when responding to a character question, you need to be brainstorming different words to describe this character. What type of person are they? What is the writer's purpose from constructing this character? How does the character change and develop as the text progresses? Is there any key quotes? What type of relationships do they form with others? Are they a product of the contextual circumstances? So these are things for you to consider. And remember, time management. Time management is absolutely crucial for your essays. You need to make sure you are cautious of the time, because you will be sitting in the exam hall and you will be surprised of how quickly the exam time flies by. So my advice to you would be cautious and work through the questions with a steady manner, not too fast, not too slow, but make sure you keep an eye on the time. And that takes us towards the end of the video. I hope you all found this video beneficial, and best of luck to your upcoming exams on Wednesday. We are going to do a predicted paper 2, so where we'll be looking at power and conflict for poetry and also an inspector calls. So please subscribe, like and share, as we are creating more education related videos, and also prediction videos for GCSE English language. So that will be for paper 1 and paper 2 for all exam boards, including AQA, Edexcel, Educas and OCR. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, like and share for more.